doing, little piggies? See, I'm not too fond of you yet. You picked me up. What's going on, everybody? It's Cam here, Easy Work Acres. Today, we are going to venture into getting pigs. So pigs is something that we've kind of went back and forth on for a little while. We decided whether we wanted to go goats or pigs or maybe something else in between. And we keep coming back to pigs because it seems like something that we can get set up fairly cheap, as well as a little bit easier to contain than goats, so long as the electric fence that we plan to do works out like we want it to. So that's what we're getting into. We have about a week to get this set up and get ready because the person I have contacted and found for getting pigs from, they're ready for me to pick up on Saturday, which is exactly a week from today. So let's get started. We're going to work on a whole bunch of stuff. We got to set up a whole fence, get a feeding system, a watering system, a house, and all kinds of stuff ready. So let's do this. Right now what I'm doing is setting up the fence for it. So what I've done so far is I went to the store and I've gotten some of these 10-foot long 1/2-inch rebar, which are only about $5 a piece. I only need about 8 of them to cover half an acre because I have a couple T-posts on hand. But we're cutting these 10-foot down to about 3 foot and then putting them a foot in the ground to where we have a 2-foot high fence, and we're going to do a 2-line electric fence. So let's get into it. So as you can see, ignore this disaster I got going on here, but I got a bunch of these cut already, cutting a couple more, and cutting these 10-footers down to 3-foot lengths. And then I'm going to go stick them in the ground, and we're basically going to be spacing these out about every 20 feet out there. Sawzall definitely not the best way to cut these, but I still, for some reason, do not have an angle grinder, which would be way better for cutting these down to the sections I need. So I'm just gonna keep fooling around with this and dealing with this nonsense right here, bending blades and all kinds of nonsense because of the vibration. But luckily, I only gotta cut 8 of them. So whatever, we're gonna get them cut and then we're gonna get out in the field. Alrighty, so we are done cutting rebar, and basically I'm spacing these out 20 foot apart. So I got this big long tape. I got T-post as my corner post, and then I'm doing these rebar every 20 feet. And we're gonna go all the way out into the woods here, back into the woods, make a turn, and then bring it all the way back to that corner post right there. And we're gonna make this big, huge rectangle, about a 1/2 acre large. And then eventually what I'll do, so this is just my starting 1/2 acre. I'm gonna go another 1/2 acre that direction eventually to make a whole second paddock. We're only gonna get maybe 4 to 6 hogs at best to start. Basically because I would like to do like 2 for breeding, and then the other 4 will be for meat for us and close family members. And then from there, if we decide that we want to get in the business of actually selling meat or just selling the piglets, then we can get into that. But this 1/2 acre should be a great starting point to where our pigs will have a good amount of room, as well as trees for shade, and they can have some time back in the woods, smash things down, clear stuff out there for us as well. And then they'll do the same thing on these woods whenever we expand to the other 1/2 acre that we're going to add to this later on down the road. They can get into those trees and clear all that out and smash it all down for us too. Now earlier I did go into these woods over here and go ahead and cut the path. So I set these 4 corner posts, measured them all out, and then went ahead and started cutting myself a path with just a bush hog attachment on the weed eater. Luckily there was no major large trees or anything in the way, mostly just brush, tons of freaking thorn bushes, but basically giving us a clear path to get all the way through from corner post to corner post all the way around here. Me and the kiddos got everything done, staking it off to where we have a whole entire perimeter staked off with insulators ready to go, and then got that first string on. And like I said, I left one part loose so that we can get in and out easy because we are not done on what we need inside that fence line yet, but I'd like to get that perimeter already set up. So next we're going to be making a pig house, like a little A-frame or something for them. And I have all kinds of scrap stuff here from an old chicken coop I took down at my sister's house, and we're going to use this as our A-frame for the pig hut. So let's get to it. Well, I think I just got lucky because I think I'm gonna be able to put this A-frame together like with how this already is. I'm just gonna put some 45s in the middle, and that should pinch to make that a 90. And then we got ourselves a pig pen.
That, sir, is not sturdy.
It did work out like I thought it would. So this was already put together like as the roof when we took this chicken coop down in the first place. And it is exactly 8 feet, which is perfect schematics for an A-frame. So I lucked out here. But basically I took out 45 degrees right off the middle on both sides. And then I'm just gonna fold this over like an L shape, sew it together. And then I'm gonna kind of roll the bottoms in and put a band across, and you'll kind of see the band that I'm talking about. Well, looky there. She's looking good. I had to put a little scab right there because there's that bad board. You can probably see it's kind of eating away. So I scabbed a little higher up where the board is still good. And if I ever got to replace that one board in there, not a big deal. This thing will hold together as I'm replacing that board, but I'm going to use it while it's there. But yeah, this thing looks good, and it is the perfect size for a mom and some babies, or even, you know, 1 or 2 full-size hogs can get up under there. Not 600-700 pound hogs, you know, maybe a 200 pound, but a couple of them could get under there, get out of the rain, get out of the weather and stuff like that. They're also going to partly be in forest. They'll be able to get out of the elements just being in the forest too. But mainly I wanted this in case we decide to start breeding, that there was already some kind of shelter or structure out there prepared and ready to go. We may build a different structure for having babies. We don't know. We've never done this before, so we'll find out if this will suffice. And yeah, we're gonna get it out there in the field. We're either gonna move on to the cattle panel fence or hog panel fence, or what. I think I got cattle panels, but it should work fine because it's mainly just a way of training the pigs to the electric fence when they get here. And then we also got to make a feeder and a waterer out here, so they have something to eat or drink out of. But once all that's set up, we are ready to go, and we can get some pigs out here. All right, we got her where we want her. And that was like less than a 3-minute drag over here, I think. I don't know, something like that. It wasn't that bad. Pretty lightweight. And I think this is gonna work out just fine for us, other than the fact that just realized that this one is overlapped the wrong way. I'll probably unscrew that and flip it, otherwise they're just gonna get dumped on there. But overall, it's looking good. And that should work out fine, especially at the very minimum to get us started. Alrighty, we are moving on to our pig feeder. And once again, I have all the stuff I need to make one. So I have scrap 2x12s here for, I think I built some shelves in the house or something like that, and that was like cut off. And I've already checked other rooms, and these are bigger than the shelves that I plan on using everywhere else. Or those are smaller, so I need longer boards. So those are perfect because I can use them for the feeder now. Already have scrap plywood, have scrap 2x4s everywhere. And basically we're gonna build one of those feeders with the 55-gallon drum that has the lids that close to keep the water off. And then the pigs will use their snout to flip the lids up and eat. All right, just to kind of give you an idea what I got going on here, these are the scrap cutoffs from the 2x12s, and they're tacked, you know, nailed from the outside. And yes, they're separate and they're wobbly now, but they're gonna be strapped together by the plywood that I'm putting in. So, and also note, I ripped it to where it's shorter than the outside 2x12s, so that once I slide these ramps in here, that they don't sit too high above that. It's okay if it's a little, but you don't want like a giant lip. And then once these are in here, this will, well, I don't want that side up, I want the other side up. Smooth the side, smooth the side. All right, so that's all tacked together. And when you look down in there, the feed will hit those ramps, shoot out to the outside. The pigs can get to them. And now I'm gonna cut an angle here and put lids on that the pigs are able to flip up with their snout. And then I'm gonna put some uprights here that I can strap this bucket to. All right, we're about at a stopping point because I have to get some hinges for this bad boy. That's another thing. I was able to dolly this over here just like I was the A-frame. So this is another thing that I can move with just a dolly when it's empty, which is pretty awesome. But I need to get some hinges, I have some old hinges, but I don't feel like going all the way down to the barn to get them. So we're gonna put a weight on that. All right, it's a new day. It is windy as crap out here and getting cold again. And I think we're about to get hit with some kind of other winter rainstorm or something. But we're out here and we're working on this feeder still. So something I added just now is, I said I was gonna get some hinges for these doors, but then I was like, you know what, I kind of would like a lid that flips on and off. So the same exact thing I did to patch those holes with those metal screws on the inside, I did the same thing, use metal screws that go through the plastic and into this 2x4 here that has this like flip hinge. And then I'm gonna put a roof on here, a metal roof, that will be my lid essentially. And it is going to be able to flip up and open on the top. But that'll keep the rain off. And then I don't have to worry about taking a lid all the way off, all the way on, putting a brick on it and all this other stuff. And it'll already be attached. And hopefully that will make it easier for not only me to refill the feeder, but also my wife not having to like pull off scrap metal, especially if it's like super windy. And it's windy out here all the time. Like out in the open field, it's windy all the time. So having to like pull off a piece of sheet metal that keeps all this dry all the time as our lid, it just makes more sense to me to make it attached to the barrel and make it a flip lid that makes it easy to open, dump your feed in, close it, and be done with it, and not have to carry around a cinder block. And it'll probably look nicer too. So that's the plan. So the roof is on. You can see it's got a little bit of a slant to it. It's not gonna keep everything perfectly dry, but it's dang sure gonna help a lot, because it can't help anything that's gonna blow in from the side, but from the top, at least some of this will run off, and it will run past this lip here. And then I can open this up pretty easily. It'll hang on there, and then I can fill the feed. And then when I'm done, close it up. And it doesn't have to be, you know, awesome. It just has to work. But now I got a good pig feeder. Pigs can get their nose up under there and lift this up and get to the feed. Same thing on both sides. All right, so now we are gonna get into making our pig water. We just did our feeder. You can watch that video. I'm gonna make separate videos for each of these things I'm making for our pig pen also. So we're getting into the water, and I'm actually going to make the design that Watts Way Farms did. You can check out their video too if you want to. I'm doing it the same exact way pretty much because it looks really, really effective. I've looked at a lot of videos and making these pig waters, and his seems like it'll last a lot longer. One of the most common issues with pig water is what I've heard is that these nipples start to leak, and then you got to try and figure out a way to swap them out. And then also, because the bushings that you would normally use on these barrels, you have to get down inside the barrel. It means you have to cut the lid off your barrel. And in this method, you don't have to cut the lid off your barrel. And then you can use these caps that are already on the barrels to fill your water with. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out a whole lid situation or any of that. All right, so first off, got to put 3 different 1.25 inch holes in the side of this. I'm just using an 1.25 inch paddle bit. That works fine on this plastic. And everybody has different ideas of where you should put the pig nipples on these waterers. I'm gonna put mine pretty close to the bottom because you can always raise it up if I need to. But if I make them too high, I can't really make it lower. So I can make it pretty low and then stack stuff up to make it higher if I want to for the different stages of life when we get these pigs. I'm excited about the pigs. We're getting them in a couple days, and I'm pretty daggone excited about this. But let's get to drilling these holes real quick. Okay, got the holes cut. But I will say, if you can absolutely avoid using a paddle bit, My older paddle bits work fine on this. I've done it a million times, but they have like these little tines on the outsides of my other paddle bit, which this one doesn't. It has like little shovel scoops on it, and it'll give you a really funky looking hole that you have to like, I had to use my utility knife to like smooth it out and try and get it the right size, which is rather irritating. So if you can use a hole saw, it would just save you some time. This is gonna work fine, but man, that was irritating. To just drill a couple holes. It's time to go ahead and throw in the uniseals. All right, so we got the whole pig nipple and everything, the whole assembly together. And now we're gonna put it in the uniseal. So this hole is pretty tight. So you're gonna have to lubricate appropriately to get it in there. So just getting it a little wet first before you put it in the hole should make it enter a little bit easier. Woo! That's a tough one. There we go. Woo! And she's in. So make sure you get it wet first, and then you should be able to get it in there pretty easy. All right, so we got this bad boy completely assembled. Got all 3 of the waters in there, and we should be good to go. Just filling it up with water and getting our pigs to drink out of this thing. All right, now that we have the water, the feeder, and the housing done, we're pretty much prepared for the pigs, other than a hard fence. So I have these cattle panels here. We typically use these for our dogs to pin them in whenever when we have their collars on the charger. But they tend to stick around pretty good without any issues when we're charging their collars. So we hardly use this thing at all, unless we have to suddenly like charge their collars while we're gone. So as long as we stay ahead of it, then we should be fine. So we're gonna use these because we already got them. And again, we're just trying to keep this cost effective for us getting started up. So we're gonna move this hard line fence out there and then run the training electric line on the inside of this fence. So I'm gonna get to taking this down and start moving the pieces out there. And then I'll kind of show you the setup once I get these panels back out there. We're out here, I got the panels out here. And we're kind of pulling some line and stuff. And I'm definitely gonna have to do some rearranging here because those are gonna swap places and all kinds of other stuff. So how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna flip the camera around. So I have like my perimeter fence that I'm gonna be having out here, corner post, and then it continues on. So I'm actually only gonna have 2 sides hot. So basically I'm gonna step the hard fence just outside this electric fence along this way and along this way. So these 2 walls of my hard cattle panel fence will have this wire on the inside of them. And then this wall and this wall will just be the hard fence. And I'll likely just put their house up against the hard fence and their water up against the hard fence and their feeder up against this hard fence over here. So I can maximize the amount of space they can have and not feel cramped in by having, this is only a 16 by 16 foot space. So I don't want to close them in too much because we're getting 6 right out the gate. They are going to be smaller. They're only like 4 to 6 weeks old. And I just want to make sure they have space. They're only going to be in this one confined area for, I don't know, a week or 2, just to allow them to kind of learn the fence a little bit, the electric fence, and then we'll open them up to this whole ½ acre. But so we're going to make 2 sides hot, 2 sides just hard fence, 16 by 16 foot. And hopefully this will work out like I want to. We'll see. So let's get started putting this fence up. I think we got a good spot set up out here. So there's only going to be 6 of them, and they're only about 5 or 6 weeks old, so they're not huge yet. And like I said, we have a hot wire on the inside of this wall and a hot wire over there along that wall. And I have their house pinned all the way up against this wall here. Now I plan on putting some hay in there. We have extra hay bales already, but I'm gonna put some hay in there, and I'll probably stack some hay bales on that opposite end to kind of block it off, because the first night they're going to be here, it's going to get pretty cold for the first 2 nights. After that, it's supposed to warm back up, which will be great. But I don't want them to just they're right now in like a hog house to where it's like they're inside a barn area, so they're probably used to staying fairly warm in there, at least, you know, probably above 40 or something. And it's supposed to be like 28 their first night here. So I'm gonna make sure I get plenty of straw in there, or hay, and then do the same thing across the back, block it off so it can retain some heat. Now, as far as like where I place their feeder and water, so the feeder, I have it up against the house, and both ends are opened up, obviously, but I didn't put it anywhere near the hot wire because the last thing I want is them to be trying to eat and then accidentally back up or bump into a hot wire. And same thing with the water. It's in the corner. The hot wire is behind the waterer, but it is not on the side where they're actually going to be drinking from. So yeah, if they get curious and they try and go in behind the water, they might get a zap. But while they're trying to eat or drink, I don't want them to accidentally get zapped at any point. I want them to feel safe and free and easy to eat without having to worry about getting shocked. But the area is pretty much made. I am going to put one more T-post on this wall right here in the middle that I got to do. But I'm going to go ahead and drag my second string now that the whole perimeter is done, and, you know, get the whole second string going through. Something odd too is that my line is rather loose, and that worries me because when I say loose, I mean it's like laying on the ground down there. Something chewed through my freaking fence out here in the woods before I even got it set up or hooked up. Like, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna walk by and gnaw through this random wire going through the woods. Extremely frustrating. So I can fix it, not a big deal. It's just really annoying because obviously this fence is in brand new shape and something already chewed through the daggone line of it, and it's not at the end, it's in the middle, so I can't even pull a new string without buying a whole new pack. But we're gonna mend it. The polystring's pretty easy fix. You can just literally tie a knot in it, and I'll probably fold a washer over it or something just to make sure that it stays knotted. But just want to point out, go ahead and electrify your fence as soon as possible. It'll keep animals from chewing through it. Alrighty, so we got the fence repaired in that one spot, and we're gonna give the fence a little test in here. See if we got it working. So something else I did too, which I'll probably end up clipping this probably in the corner somewhere, not right here, but this is just a test. But I did go ahead and fold like 2 washers over on this just to give a better bite on my alligator clips. And this is the Premier One Solar Stop 80. I did a video on this. It's been a really good charger, and this is the one we use on our fence for our chickens. And this is the one that we actually use for our chickens. And I found a half off special at Tractor Supply on a cheaper unit that I'm going to put on the chickens. And since I know this is a good reliable fence charger, and this is much more detrimental if the fence goes down, I figured I'd use the one that I know works really well, use the cheaper one on the chickens, and then if it doesn't end up working out, I'll just get another one of these bad boys for them. So gonna go ahead and test it out. Just got it clipped, got my grounding over there, and then my tester, which I already have it plugged in the ground here. And then if I have this set to the energy saver setting, we're knocking 4.9. So that's 4,900 volts or watts or whatever it is. And then you have 6.3, go a little further down, still 6.3. So on the higher setting, it is still hitting a very steady 6.3. So that's really good to see. This is just with one line up. I'm going to be putting the second line up here in a minute, but first I'd like to go ahead and finish up inside of here. I just really was anxious to make sure that this fence was going to hit like it should, so I figured I'd go ahead and do a test real quick. But I'm going to get the straw in the little hut, get the feeder filled up and all that stuff, and then I'll go ahead and run my second line. All right, so they got it all bedded up in there, and I put those 2 straw bales just to kind of cap off the end. If it becomes problematic for space or anything and they have trouble getting in there and not having the other end open, then I'll just take those straw bales out of there. But I think it'll be really helpful in keeping them warm. Went ahead and got the feeder. I've just put in 100 pounds of feed just because I'm not going to be able to go to the actual feed mill where I'd prefer to get my feed until Monday, and I'm getting them tomorrow morning, which is Saturday. So wanted to have 100 pounds of feed for them to get them through a day or two while I wait on getting to go to my feed mill that I prefer to go to for feed. And then my water, which I think I'm going to actually stand this up on blocks instead of the tire, mainly for the sake, well, you know what? I can put a stake right behind the backside. So no, it'll stay on the tire. But I'm about to fill that up. Now, what I'm gonna do to fill that up, you see our big giant water collection tank that we use for our garden. I have a water pump, and I'm gonna pump from that to this to fill it up. And I actually had a plan on putting a pump up there with my generator and stuff to sit right there under that covered area, and then I'll be able to just kick on the generator and the pump and easily pump water to this whenever I need to refill it. And I could probably even just leave the hoses kind of strung out and ready to go, and then just plug the pump in when I want to use it. That should make it pretty easy in refilling this water. And likely I'll end up either making a bigger water or double this one down, like just make another barrel, because I have another barrel available and more of those watering nipples available to use. So they'll use this for now, but I'm sure as they keep getting bigger, they're going to drink more. And especially once it starts getting warmer out, they're going to drink more. I'll probably make a second one of those eventually, but the water pump system from the water collection tank should be really helpful. Another place that I could pump water from is our pond over there. That's a possibility. And I kept that in mind because when we do expand this paddock, we're probably going to expand it that direction towards the pond, which will put us closer to the pond and be able to pump water from there. But first, I am interested to see if this can be gravity fed. All right, it took a good minute for water to get down here, but it is coming out now. So I can gravity feed it. I think there was a little ice in the hose, so it took a minute for it to break through. The gravity feeding will work. It is a little slow going, but if I ever have any problems with my pump or I'm out of gas on my generator or whatever, this will work fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and set the pump up because I'm really interested in giving it a try and using it. All right, we got our pump hooked up. It is in there. Let's go check and see how fast it's coming out and see if it's worth running the pump or just keep on gravity feeding it. We'll obviously need the pump if we start doing it from the pond. But if this is significantly faster than gravity feeding, which should be, then we'll use this. Because I plan on setting that pump up and everything anyways for the garden and being able to irrigate and like spray and all that stuff if I want to. And oh yeah, that is pushing out versus the gravity fan. So yeah, we'll probably get this pump set up on the water tank and get it rocking at some point. All right, we have ourselves yet another setback. I swear, this is every day. So as you can see, my water is leaking on literally all three of them. That one really bad. Now the reason being is if you think back to when I was drilling the holes, I used that paddle bit instead of a hole saw. So I think the hole is just a little too chewed up, so it didn't create a good seal. If you use a hole saw, it absolutely will work. I've seen videos of it working just fine. And my cheapness and not wanting to spend the extra 10, 15 bucks on a hole saw versus the paddle bit is now biting me in the butt. So get yourself a hole saw when you do make the water. So now all I'm gonna do is, good thing about these is I can just pull this out to drain it, and I can drain it back down a little bit. Luckily I didn't wait until it was totally full before I realized it was leaking. It's pretty quick and easy to figure out. But I'll just take this and I will put some silicone waterproof caulk around it, something that's flexible to temperature and everything, to kind of seal it off so I don't have to waste the whole barrel. But whenever I make another one, I am 100% going to make sure that I get a hole saw, and that should save me a whole lot of trouble with, dealing with this leak problem, because this is really frustrating. We're getting the pigs tomorrow. I'm trying to get all this stuff squared away, and of course we're running into problems left and right, but that's farming. Yeah, so I pulled out the Uniseal, and you can see it had good pressure points there, but like there's a soft one there. It didn't make good connection there. Didn't make good connection all the way over here. And that is because of my wonky old hole right here. So I'm definitely going to throw some silicone caulk on here and, try and make amends, and hopefully that'll work out for us. Evan's gotten started getting our second strand of fence up, and she's gonna go ahead and drag that out. And I'm gonna do the last and most important thing, which is transporting the pigs. So I'm going to get my truck bed ready for transporting pigs, and hopefully it goes over pretty well. All right, so the plan in this truck bed is, one, you can already see I've laid in a sheet of plywood for a floor, basically, because that is much grippier than this slick plastic bed liner. And you don't want them getting thrown around, sliding around, injuring themselves when you're transporting. So definitely some form of bedding. I'm likely gonna throw in some more wood chips or something along these edges just in case. But basically, I'm going to take this toolbox out of here because we're getting 6 of them. I think that a normal truck bed size, like a 6-foot bed, would be fine if I was only getting 4. But for 6, I want to play it safe and go ahead and take the toolbox out to make sure I have enough space, because it would be horrendous to show up and then not be able to get all the pigs that I'd like to get. So gonna take the toolbox out, and then we're gonna build us up some bedsides and everything, and then a cap on the end to make sure that we don't deal with pigs hopping over my tailgate. All right, so the bed rails are on all across here. And so I did decide to put a 2x4 across there, both for windshield protection and for just like tying these two sides together so they're not just solo possibly flapping in the wind. Because even though they're hammered down in there, when you're going, 50, 60 mile an hour, there's a good chance wind can get a hold of them and blow them around a whole bunch and then possibly knock them loose. So strapped them together there. All right, so we got the pig hauler done. Came back out here and the caulk still isn't dry, probably because it's cold, which really sucks, because that means probably that water is not going to do us any good for a couple days until it dries, because I'm assuming it's going to take several hours. It's supposed to rain and snow tonight. So that really sucks. So we're going to have to bring out pails of water, but that's fine. We'll get to it. It's only 6 pigs. We'll bring in the buckets of water they need or whatever. But we just got the second line of fence up. Evan finished that up for me. And I wanted to kind of talk to you about the fence. So yes, it's hitting like it should be, but it wasn't at first. And I thought that it was grounded in a couple places. Now, my experience with electric fence so far has been the electric poultry netting from Premier One. Everything is set up. It's pretty much plug and play. So this is my first, like, make it yourself kind of electric fencing. And something that I was unaware of is to not complete the circuit. So like when I pull all the way around this entire place, not to tie back to the original takeoff point, but to make sure that those are not touching, because if they're touching, it was only cranking like 1.6 to 2,000 volts. And when you open the circuit, because the way it works is the animal touching the ground plus touching the wire is what completes the circuit, and that is how they get shocked. So when I tied my ends, let me take you down here and just show you. So basically in these corners, those two right there and these two up here should not be in contact with each other. So like it'll go all the way around the field and then come back to here, but one wire is tied behind the insulator and the other one is tied in front. Those are not connected. So it's really important that those don't touch, because then you don't get any shock. Another thing to point out here is that these should be connected. This top and bottom wire should be connected at the place you're actually going to clip your insulator on. If they're connected somewhere else down the line, then it kind of dumbs down one wire over the other. So whether you do it out here in the middle like I have here, or if you decide to tie them together at the corners on a corner post, just make sure if you're going to tie them together at a corner post, that's also where you clip on your actual charger, so that the charger is immediately shooting to both lines from the get-go and not having to go through a half a mile worth of fencing before it goes up to the top line to set a charge. And then lastly, because this got us for a minute and it was hitting low voltage also, is that if you're going to tie it like this, like I did, get the extended corner post to where it is hung out pretty far from the T-post, because since I tied behind this insulator, if this is not right in the middle of that T-post, that notch where it sticks out on the T-post there and there, it'll create a connection even though they're not touching, and it'll dumb your fence down. And that was actually, like when I did that reading earlier of like 6.4 6,400 volts or whatever. Once I figured out that it was touching in the corner somewhere like this, and I like slid it up and it wasn't making connection anymore, that jumped up to almost like 9 to 10,000 volts after that. So I thought it was odd that 6.4, 6.5, like, yes, that is good. That will do the job for the hogs. But then what if they flip a stick over and it dumbs it down to 4,000, and then they flip another stick over somewhere else and it knocks it down to like 2 or 4, 3,000? Like, it should be able to handle being touched by some grass or a stick or two without it dropping outside of a voltage range that is effective for your animals. So once I got that, and once I figured out that there was a T-post making a connection on the corner back there, it jumped up to like 8 to 10,000 range. And I actually had to turn it on the power saving mode on the charger, and then from there it still was hitting like 7 to 8,000 with the energy saving. So before any sticks or anything is touching, it was hitting 8 to 10,000. So now if a stick or a limb does fall on a tree and it lays on the fence, it might knock it down like 2,000 volts, but it'll still be well above 6,000, and that's what we want to see. So hopefully that explanation saves you some trouble, because you know, this is my first experience with creating my own electric fence. And hopefully that'll save you some trouble, because I've done a lot of troubleshooting with the poultry netting when I first set it up. And now doing my own electric fence build out. Nothing like sitting there fooling around with a fence for, you know, well over an hour, just trying to figure out why you're not getting the charge that you should be getting. So other than the water situation, we are good to go. We're gonna get these pigs in the morning. We're going to share that experience with you, and hopefully it goes smoother than this last day of prep before they get here went. But I think everything is ready to rock, and I am happy with our setup. I'm super excited to get pigs. All right, so it is pig getting day, and I think I've decided to go ahead and put like an actual plate across the back, because I mean, I've never gotten hogs before, so I just don't want any surprises. But if you look back here, you know, we got snow and ice last night, so this is icy as crap. So what I'm gonna do is flip it over on the opposite side that didn't see any ice, again, so that they have better grip back here, because it's pretty slick, and the last thing I want is these pigs sliding around all over the place. But I'm gonna flip those over and get a sheet of plywood strapped across here, and we should be ready to rock. All right, got the back slapped on there, and we are ready to rock. So I did leave space because I do want it to have wind to be able to pass here and over, and not completely block this off. But I mean, this is a much better secure situation here as far as transporting the pigs. And like I said, I flipped those over so that they're not icy, so they're on the dry side now, to where they get better grip back there, and there's still wood chips and stuff tucked in the corners. That way, you know, they're not sliding on plastic. But I think we're about ready to go. I was able to actually, because they pushed the pickup time up back a little bit, I was able to go ahead and go to the feed mill and got plenty of feed for them, and we are ready to rock. I do got to check my water at some point. We're just going to take out water to them at first anyways, but if that has sealed up and dried, we'll get that filled up. That feeder, it held 7 50-pound bags, so you know, 350 pounds that thing was able to hold in one go. So that's pretty solid. We're happy with it.
On our way to get some pigs.
Yeah. Alrighty, we have just arrived to pick up our pigs. This is going to be interesting.
Piggies coming on home.
All right, we had the pigs home. Looked like one of them got a little car sick, but we're gonna, you know, get them in their pen now. We'll see how this goes. We're basically, the plan is, at least what we think will work, is I'm gonna take down that back board and get up in there to get one. And then when I get it down, Evan will put the plywood back up, just hold it up so that they don't potentially try and jump out on their own. And then we're out here in the field chasing pigs around. So we'll see how it goes and see if this works. Save a little one for you, Mommy.
So wait, what am I gonna do? Put the bed down?
No.
How you gonna get out?
I can get out.
Look at that. It's a look. Say hi.
tap it, bear hug it like you do Harlan. Bear hug it like you do Harlan. There you go. There you go. Camera up there. There you go. You're okay. All right. There you go.
Moly. The dogs hated that. And show them where the food and water is. There they are. There they are.
The piggies are here.
They're here. They did not like that transfer from the truck to the pen. But overall, I think they'll be happy.
Alrighty, we have the pigs in the pen. We got the fence turned on. One's got a little tick so far. Oh, yep, we got a little light up.
Oh, yep.
Taking that fence for real now.
It's definitely not hitting as hard as I think it should be. I'm gonna have to bring the fence tester down here because when we first put them in here, they were kind of laying up against it a little bit, and they might have caused something to I don't know, ground somewhere in here that I'll have to check out. But this is their first time being outside in general, out on grass. So the place we got it from, basically whenever they're little, and especially since they had like several, is they had it in a barn with heat lamps and all kinds of other stuff. So this is their first time actually being out on grass. They're about 5-6 weeks old, I think. Possibly 7 for that biggest one that's in here, not sure. They said they had several that gave birth at the same time, like 3 or 4 that gave birth around the same time, and then once they got mixed together, it's kind of hard to tell who's who. But this is their first time out on grass, and they seem to be liking it. They're interested in the snow and checking everything out. How you doing, little piggies? See, I'm not too fond of you yet. You picked me up. Yeah, see, I didn't like getting picked up. That's awesome. I love them. So this is really funny. I've been worried about them because it's their first night out here, and it was a really cold night. I think it got down to like 18, 19 degrees. You know, we blocked this off really good with hay bales and stuff. Got a lot of straw and everything in there. They are the hardest sleepers. They're just in there snoring. They're all piled up in there together, just sleeping hard. They never hear me walk up when they're sleeping. This is like the 3rd time I've come check them, both last night and then this morning. Never wake up. They're just in there snoring and snoozing away. Y'all gonna wake up in there or what? Come on out of there. What y'all doing? Come on. Come on, piggies. Good morning. How was your first night? Yeah, we're gonna have to bust that up. That's frozen. We'll get it straightened out for you though. Looks like y'all did some serious rummaging out here last night, even on the feed. Goodness. How y'all doing, big pigs? All right, we are really happy here. So it got down to 15 degrees last night, which hopefully will be the coldest night that they have to deal with. I'm pretty sure, according to the weather so far, is it's looking like after last night, we should be seeing no lower than the 30s at night and then up in the 40s to 60s during the day. So they did great in 15-degree weather out here. Only 5, I think 1 or 2 of them are 6 weeks old. They just snuggled up in there in that straw and made them a little bed, and they were snoozing all night. I checked on them several times. Every time they're just out here snoring. And they're hard sleepers. They literally would not wake up, did not wake up any of the times I came out here. The only time, like I was in there stacking this second layer of hay bales there and at the back to really block the wind off from them and stuff last night, and they were in there sleeping while I was doing it. They did not wake up until I bumped one of them with a hay bale right before I got out of there. That kind of spooked them, and like a couple of them came running out. But they ended up going right back in there and going right back to sleep. So they're hard sleepers, and obviously handled the cold temperatures well with them being a little group, and they were able to lay in there together as long as they had something to, you know, kind of retain heat for them and block that wind off of them. But in all, an overall good experience. The setup had its hitches and stuff, but in the end it turned out good, and we are happy with our pigs and looking forward to, you know, learning these animals and, you know, figuring out how to be farmers that raise pigs. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear any comments below on what you guys think, anything that we could implement or other ideas you might have that could be beneficial with pigs. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.